So I'd like to introduce Tom Van with Federal Highway. He's a program manager focusing on pavement preservation. He has 23 years with the agency.
I want to talk a little bit about some of the national programs and what we've been doing in Washington, D.C., and where we're trying to go with this, with the whole asset management program and with our preservation, in a little bit of what's been happening. So we can start off a little bit by looking at the I think the thing people know me the best for, I guess, is the rulemaking, and I don't know if that's good or bad, but anyway, that's probably one of the key things that I'm not supposed to talk about, you know, because there's always that disclaimer we have to give that if you really want guidance, go to the website, talk to the attorneys, don't talk to anybody else. And so anyway, I'm not going to talk about anything that that you can claim as guidance. So let's just put it there, and it works out all right. So we'll do a little overview of what some of the programs are, I think, and some of these fit right into some of the discussion that we just had here with the commissioner, with Amy. And so I want to talk a little bit about the performance measures, where we are with that, and with the pavement preservation programs. So one of the big focuses, and I think Amy started to talk a little bit about that, is we're very much into the effective delivery of our programs today. Yeah. Stewardship and oversight is a really big thing, and we're trying to get, you know, new stewardship agreements with all the states that are out there. We're focusing probably more heavily on stewardship and a little less on oversight because, you know, the way the legislation is, it puts more of the decision-making into the state hands, and we're trying to do that. As Amy pointed out, we're really focusing our resources on risk. So we're going to try to look at those areas and try to make the federal aid program also look at the risk areas as well. The National Highway Performance Program, I think as many of you know, what a lot of that did is it took away most of the federal programs that had to do with so much money for bridges, so much money for pavement, so much for safety, so much for this program, that program, put them all together into the National Highway Performance Program and said to the states, now you're going to make the decision as to whether that money goes to bridges, pavements, safety, or other things like that. And then you have all these other things that you have to do as part of doing that. So you got the asset management plan, you got the performance-based planning, you got the TPM reporting, you got all that other good stuff. All that stuff is now starting to get implemented. And so you can kind of see where we are now with the sustainable kinds of programs, because we want to make sure that as states get into the asset management parts of this, that they are developing programs that are going to be useful and that can really kind of guide where they go with the $40 billion of federal dollars, and hopefully with some of the monies that come from other locations as well. You know. So I will tell you that the asset management plans were due this week, and we got asset management plans from every state. So we did very well with that on it. So we have all 52 of them, and I've not read them all yet, but I know they're working on them at the present time. So some of the other focus areas that we have in there is quantifying conditions, benefits, and costs. A lot of this has to do with data. You hear a lot of people from my office talking about data. You probably saw your data report card that our guys put out. You know, you hear a lot about we're trying to improve the quality of the HPMS data. And a lot of that's important because it's going to get into this whole issue of performance. And we talked a little bit, I think Amy talked a few minutes ago about trying to get pavements to last longer. And that is part of the goal here. You know, what are the expectations for people on it? You know, can we contain some of these costs that are in there? Can we get more life for less dollars? You know, things that we've really been trying to do for a long time, but maybe haven't been as successful as we could have been. We now have legislation that helps us get there as well. So one of the other key items that we have, and I think somebody here talked a few minutes ago about it, was this issue of transparency. You know, we've asked the states to try to be transparent in their programs, and as the same part of that, so is Federal Highway. You know, we're trying to look at not only how do we calculate this performance, we're trying to make that available to everybody that's out there. You know, so if you're a state and you really want to know how we calculate performance, you will be able to do that because we now have a document that's on the website that you can see not only how we did it, but actually see the computer code that made it happen and be able to come up with those same kind of numbers with it. So we're trying to do that. We've learned a lot of lessons as we've gone since, you know, MAP 21 went into place here a few years ago. And so, and we're trying to coordinate that guidance so that we only have really one message that's going out there. That's been a problem for us over the years. And as such, we're also sticking with a lot of our technology programs as well. And you see here, I've got a couple of them that are noted here. The peer exchanges, the Everyday Counts initiatives, you know, which Tom Harmon's going to talk a lot more about in here. And we are still working pretty hard on the development of expertise, you know, and trying to improve that capacity within the states on there. And we do still have folks working on pavement design, pavement methods, and construction methods, and a lot of the activities like that. So I need to talk a little bit about things I know a lot about here. One of these is pavement management. I've been doing pavement management now for more years than I hate to even think about, you know, but we are trying to look at revitalizing a lot of that program. It sort of got set aside a lot when we started working on the MAP 21 legislation. We're getting back into it now. One of the programs that I came out with a couple years ago was we wanted to do an analysis of the whole interstate system. And we started that, and we did a very successful project, and the report is out there on doing that. We're doing a second round of that this year, and this time I told the contractor, well, you have to have a data quality management plan. And not only that, it has to match the same kind of data quality management plan that every one of the states has to do. So we went through that, and they have now put that together, and you can actually look at that because it's on our website at the present time. So we're also working on some NHI course revisions. Some of you remember the old NHI course I used to teach in there. We haven't given that for quite a while because it's a little bit outdated and it needs a little bit of improvement. So I want to try to look at, you know, maybe some methods of delivery. I don't know, we're thinking maybe doing some of it web-based, and I don't know how we want to do that just yet. We want to get a lot more into the analysis parts of it too, and some of the things that are really critical for agencies to take on today. We also have some peer exchanges planned. I think the first one's coming up in June, July, something like that. And so they're going to be available for states to participate in as well. Because we want to hear from the states and hear what are the real problem areas and what are the areas you really need us to be working in the area of pavement management. So it's not the old program anymore, you know, because it's got to do a lot more than it used to. You know, we got to be looking at network level kinds of analysis. We got to know how does it support your asset management programs? How does it support performance management? You know, and how does it integrate into all the planning and all the other efforts that are trying to happen within a state's activity? So in order to do some of that, we got to talk a little bit about preservation. That's what this conference is about. So I want to talk some about our preservation program. I think many of you know we've had a little bit of a downturn on it over the past 3 or 4 years on that. But we had a lot of reorganization this year, and so they've really reprioritized the programs. I'm really expecting that in the next fiscal year, we're going to actually get quite a bit more money to work on pavement preservation than we've had in the past. So what my new team leaders are telling me is that we want to work on these things that you see up here, the capacity building. We want to try to tie it into some of the other activities that are going on. I think we need to do a lot more work quantifying these metrics that are out there. You know, we need to be looking at not only it made this project last so many years longer, but what did it do to my whole network? You know, did we really save money over the long run on this thing? And how are we going to do this? And get into some of those long-term economics and the life cycle planning and some of the efforts of that thing. And then the last thing they talked about is that we have 2 EDC projects in there, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about those in a second. But there's one on when and where, and we have that I've been running for the last year or two, and then we have the how project, and we want to try to bring those together, because what we're finding is that there's a lot of overlap in those, and what the states and the local agencies really want is when, where, and how, not just one or the other. Yeah. So we're going to try to bring those activities together and try to make that work a little more efficiently. So a couple of the activities that are still going on is we have the Sharp 2 program. This has been underway for several years on that. We're kind of wrapping up the first part of it. We did a lot of The first part of this was a demonstration on doing preservation on high traffic volume roadways. And we did have some work that we did assistance in 14 states, and there was a lot of really good things that came out of that program. You know, I think one of the real highlights I remember was when we did they did a thing up at Min Road up there, and we had Tom Woods out there telling everyone, you know, now this is how you do a chip seal on an interstate. And nobody knew how to do that better than Tom Wood. I mean, this guy had an incredible amount of experience and effort on that. And they actually did that. They put chip seals on I-94 up in Minnesota, and it was a highly successful project. We did other projects. We did one in Massachusetts. It had 100,000 vehicles a day on it, did preservation. So, I mean, we pretty well demonstrated that you could do preservation on pretty much any kind of a roadway if you did the right kind of construction, you had the right materials, and you took enough care in doing the projects. So we have a second round of this going on as well. I'm not there yet. Hold on. We do have what's called round 7 going on. Now, on this one, we're working with 3 states on trying to do some very short but very useful. They're like I would call it like a video snapshot, you know, of. And they're focused on providing some information to inspectors for projects. You know, what do you look at on this? And they're going to be available on your phone. So, you know, you'll be able to, your inspector will be able to sit out there. He's in his car. He can sit down and review something. It'll take 5 minutes here while he's waiting for the crew to come. And then we're going to have the 3 states provide us with some of the examples and some of the material to make that happen. And we're going to try to make that available to everybody. And so I know my contractor's in the room here, but I'm going to put him on the spot and say, we're going to have delivery here and by the end of the year, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So anyway, we'll get this, we're going to get this out. And I'm kind of excited about doing this because I think this is going to be able to be a useful tool for a lot of the states as they move forward. And it should help, I think, a lot of the state inspectors work even better with the industry. So they know what to look for when they're out there. They get, you know, they got good solid information that they can work from on making that happen. Now, the other project we have going on is the Everyday Counts. And like I said, this is in 2 parts, the when, where. And the whole idea of the when, where, some of you remember back when Jim Sorensen came out, and he had the mantra, you know, the right road, the right treatment at the right time. And the problem we've always had with that is when you had the right road, the right treatment at the right time, you didn't have the money. And so what this whole project was about was trying to integrate this stuff into the whole life programs for states. You know, so when you start thinking about pavement programs, you're including preservation in that activity. So you need to be looking over that entire life of the thing and saying, yeah, preservation is not something else that we do with leftover money, that this is something that is an integral part of our program. And so we were trying to do that, and you can see some of the products that we're hoping to get out of that. We haven't got it all put all together just yet on that. Some of the areas that we're still working on a lot is the communication plans. I'm not really sure what the best way to get this stuff out is yet. We're looking at some alternatives and how to make this thing work, and we're going to try to get a lot of this stuff working in the next few months and get it to the point where we can actually get some states interested in doing that. One of the other elements of this project was that we're trying to reach out to some of the local agencies as well, and so we have had some workshops for in a number of states for quite a few local agencies. I think we've had over 400 people attending those different workshops that they've had. And I think the local agencies who have not had a lot of experience doing preservation or doing pavement management or any of the elements of doing really, really good solid pavement ownership, have an opportunity to understand how to do this stuff and to move forward with it. So that's kind of what the When Where project was about. And you can see some of these activities that I was talking about in here. And I think, you'll see some of the delivery of some of these activities. This summer, we're going to have quite a few of them starting to come out. We do have some workshops and things planned. There's going to be more in the communications, because we haven't quite got that completely worked out just yet. So there'll be a lot more delivery elements of that as well. Now, the how portion, I didn't manage this particular piece of it. We did have some other folks in the agency who were working on it. And they were concerned with looking at states and local agencies where a lot of limit on the preservation activities because of a number of reasons. They may have had some uncertainty about things. They may have tried things and they didn't work, or might have had a failure somewhere and didn't have the opportunity to do that. So some of the activities that they've been involved with are peer exchanges, where they can talk about it. They've gotten into some web-based training, and you can see some of the other activities that they're involved with here. So what else is going on? One of them is the Pavement Preservation ETG. Federal Highway does have an ETG now. It's mostly state members that are on here that's working on a number of things, and you can see these on the list that we have up here. They are meeting on a regular basis twice a year. We now have, within our reorganized leadership, some interest in providing some funding to make some of the activities that they come up with and helping to fund those things to actually happen. So that's out there. That's what they're doing. I want to give you some contact information. There's my contact information, and Tony, who's working pretty closely with me down in Washington. And we have Jason Dietz, who's done a remarkable job with the EDC4 project and getting a lot of the information out. And he's been kind of my field guy that's been doing a lot of really good work on that. With that, if you have questions, I'll be around.
The preceding was produced by the National Center for Pavement Preservation. More information can be found on the web at pavementpreservation.org. Additional support provided by Michigan State University.